Well, hello everyone. Thanks so much for joining me for this brand new episode of Inspiring Our World. Well, today you are going to be very inspired because we are blessed to have our fabulous Nikan technical advisor, Dave Balzer, with us today, and we're going to discuss the power of Jade GreenZymes and our new Jade GreenZymes Citrus. So, Dave, thank you so much for taking time out of your very busy day to be with us. I'm thrilled we're going to have this conversation.
No, thank you for inviting me. It's always a pleasure to join my favorite person in Nikan and have a conversation and have a discussion about not about the company, about the products, about how they influence us, and I personally think the catchphrase for Nikan should be wellness enhanced.
Oh, I love that.
And I think I said, you know what? I don't always have good ideas, but sometimes, you throw enough at the wall, sometimes it sticks. And so wellness enhanced. I like it. It applies to practically every product that we have.
Yes.
And I certainly think it applies to the Jade GreenZymes Citrus, because what we did was we took a product that was there from way back.
Yes.
And it has been enhanced. So here's a wellness product that we have and that we've enjoyed and that we've used and that people have benefited from, and we've enhanced it. So I think that's a perfect example of what Nikan's about. And to me a product that I don't think people realize that Nikan had a relationship with the person who developed Dr. Hagiwara, Yoshishida Hagiwara, Dr. Hagiwara of Japan, that Nikan had a relationship with Dr. Hagiwara from the beginning.
I didn't know that.
And that he worked with Nikan and specially formulated the Jade GreenZymes for Nikan.
Wow.
And
that's amazing.
Yeah, and that's going way back, and the relationship continued. Of course, Dr. Hagiwara is no longer with us, but he was also instrumental when we said, okay, we'd like to have the organic barley grass grown in the US. And Dr. Hagiwara was involved in vetting several different agricultural sites where he thought that obviously they had to qualify as organic. That's the first criteria. And then of those, which ones would give him the same kind of nutrient profile that he had in his original barley grass. And much to his surprise, not only was he able to retain the profile that he had established in Japan, he actually got better results. He actually got more of the good stuff coming from the organic barley grass that was grown in the US. Just a note.
So interesting, because I understand it's in Utah, and I was actually looking up exactly where it is on a map, and how there were just ancient seas there, and so they've got all this mineralization going on and so forth. And just to say, yesterday I just got in the mail his book, which is not so easy to find. So this is a used copy, right? Because there was no new copy to be bought, but it's called Green Barley Essence, Nature's Source of Lifetime Health, Vitality and Well-Being by Dr. Hagiwara. Here it is. And you can get it on Amazon. And I haven't had time to read it yet, but I'm really excited to read it because he spent many years finding this food and then finding the best way to harvest it and so forth. So let's talk about his story, because I think it's quite fascinating.
Yeah, Dr. Hagiwara, brilliant scientist, a brilliant chemist, worked in pharmaceuticals, built one of the largest pharmaceutical companies in Japan at that time, won all kinds of awards, and he made himself sick. Because of his work in the labs and his work at the bench, we call it at the bench, he ingested, inhaled, incorporated a number of different kinds of toxins into his system.
Okay.
And we're talking here about organic contaminants. When I say organic, there's two organics. There's the good organic that you and I talk about all the time, and that we say organic Jade GreenZymes, and that's product that is manufactured and produced with very stringent rules regarding artificial fertilizers, and no GMOs, all that good stuff. That's the good organic. There's another organic, which is a chemical organic, a chemistry organic, which refers to the chemistry of molecules that are made of carbon and hydrogen. Carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. That's organic chemistry. It's kind of like Lego building. And so he was involved. So he poisoned himself unwittingly. He poisoned himself with these organic compounds, but also with a lot of heavy metal compounds. And I'm somewhat reluctant to say the word mercury, because then people are going to say, oh, Nikan's claiming that Jade GreenZymes can detoxify your body from mercury. And I don't want people to run around saying that, but it's important to know that that was one of his primary problems. Health problems resulted from heavy metal contamination. Yes. And we are allowed to say that GreenZymes, our Jade GreenZymes, aid in natural detoxification. So detoxing is very important. So all right, so let's go back to Hagiwara. So he's sick because of all the pollutants in his body, and not just not feeling well, like he's not having a good day. His teeth were falling out.
Wow.
His skin was shedding and falling off.
Ooh.
He was extremely weak, and he realized, okay, I got to do something here.
Yes.
And it's not like he said, aha, I'll do barley grass, I'll do young barley grass. No, he tried every remedy that medical science had to offer, at least in his world at that time.
Okay.
Nothing was really working, so he realized he had to develop something on his own.
Yes.
And it's kind of like Dr. Deal with acetylmyristoliate, with the joint compound, where Dr. Deal decided he was gonna isolate this compound because he had arthritis. He had very arthritic hands, and he could hardly pick anything up and hold it anymore. So he needed something to help him. Anyway, that's a segue.
That's just interesting. I just used the CM cream on my shoulder today.
No, the CM cream is unbelievably effective.
So effective.
So Dr. Hagiwara, after many tries, realized that young barley grass was the way to go. He was using it. He had a phenomenal turnaround in his health. And instead of being a 38-year-old going on 70, he became a 40-year-old who looked and acted like a 40-year-old. So that's a tremendous victory for him.
Yes.
And then he decided, okay, this material is so good and so effective and natural that he wanted to spread the wealth. He wanted to distribute it.
Yes.
And in order to do that, he had to dry it and powder it. And what he found was that drying it and powdering it caused it to lose a very large portion of its efficacy, of its effectiveness. It killed the enzymes, it denatured the proteins, it did all kinds of things that made it significantly less effective. So Dr. Hagiwara took it upon himself to engineer a cold processing technique that allowed the retention of all that activity in the GreenZymes, and then he could bottle it, he could ship it all over the world, which is what we're doing now, and make it available to people.
It's funny. One of the quick things, because I just scanned the book a little bit this morning, and it said that he was trying all these different ideas of green, right? He was really into the deep green, raw green, and he would make all these concoctions and have his family try them all, and he said most of them were awful, and they weren't digestible, and people hated the taste and all the rest. And it took him years to develop this, didn't it? It took him a long time. Yes. Very committed, very focused, really
tenacious.
Emotional. Yes.
Tenacious, but
tenacious.
What did he have to lose? What did he have to gain?
Yeah.
And since he had determined that there was really nothing out there that could help, and the physicians were just throwing up their hands and saying, okay, you're 38 going on 70. And I don't mean to disparage 70. 70 is a good age.
Yeah, no, nothing wrong with 70. When you get to 70, you just don't want to be 38,
when you're sitting here at 71 and telling people that, oh, he was an old man, he was 70 years old. I realized, wait a minute, because in my own head, Julie, I think we all do that. I don't know how old you are in your head, but
about 38.
There you go. And I'd say, yeah, I'm just eclipsing 40 at this point.
Yep.
At least in my mind.
Right.
But it's somewhat different when I look in the mirror, but that's okay. So he really needed to save his life and keep at it until he found the answer, because he became completely convinced that the answer wasn't out there. He had to find the answer for himself. And after he did, of course, then he decided, well, you know what? Look what this did for me.
Yes.
I need to put this in the hands of other people so that they can benefit from it. Go ahead.
Yes, sorry. I just was thinking it's not that dissimilar in a way to Mr. Masuda struggling with his health all through his childhood and realizing the value of good health and really coming upon all these ideas for not only maintaining but creating constantly one's vitality. So it's not that dissimilar, and I love it that they knew each other, hopefully were friends and worked together like this.
I can't say that absolutely, but I can tell you that our company worked very closely with Dr. Hagiwara and with his company in order to put together a unique Jade GreenZyme product for Nikken.
Yes.
And I'm so kind of smiling here because you hit on the fact that a lot of us are guinea pigs for the people we love. When Sarah was going through dental school at Cypress College here locally, she needed a guinea pig. She needed guinea pigs because she wasn't certified, and people who would volunteer to come in, and they didn't charge us anything. But I remember when she was practicing doing the injections for anesthesia.
Oh.
And so I said, yeah, okay, sir, I'll do that.
Very brave of you.
And I came in, and there was one morning where I got 6 different injections on one side of my mouth. And when we were finished, I said, okay, hon, I'm gonna go back now. And she said, look, listen to me. The inside of your mouth, at least half of it, is completely at surgical plane, meaning you could poke it, you could prod it, you can't feel it. Yep. So she said, please don't eat anything until all that feeling comes back. And because you're likely to chew your cheek or whatever.
Yes.
And she said, and don't drink anything because you won't have the heat sensing. The heat sensing nerves are not working. And I said, okay, yep. So I got in the car, and after about a block and a half, there's a Starbucks.
Oh.
So I pull off, and I get myself a tall decaf no foam latte.
I don't like where this is going.
and I said, okay, I'm not stupid. I'll be able to tell if it's too hot. And so I stuck my pinky in, and I said, if I can do a 10 count with my pinky in there, then it's not going to burn my tissue, and it's perfectly okay. So I did that, and I thought, you're pretty slick, Dave. I put the cap back on, and I went to take a swig, and the coffee went in my mouth and poured out this side that was numbed, and went right into my shoe.
Right.
I threw the coffee away, and I said, next time you better listen and do what you're told.
That's right.
So yeah, so I was that's what being a guinea pig, and I'm sure that Dr. Hagiwara's family tasted some pretty, I don't want to say vile, but some pretty gross tasting stuff.
Yes.
And and then he came up with the young barley grass. And it's interesting that we always say young barley grass. It's important that the barley grass be harvested before it gets to a reproductive stage.
Okay.
That's why it's young barley. It's why it's called young barley grass, because they're getting it. You can only let it grow a certain number of, I think it's 12 days or something like that. Yes. You can only let it grow to a certain level of maturity before you have to harvest it. Then you're getting the most bang for the buck. Then you're getting the enzymes you're supposed to get. You're getting the activity, I want to say biological activity, that you're supposed to have. And that's what you chop up and then powder and put into the Jade GreenZymes.
So it's quite a fast moving thing, isn't it? Like it has to be this, and then they got to take it, and
it's very fast. And what I didn't know was that barley is the third largest cash crop in the world.
Huh.
You know, you think rice, you think wheat, you think whatever, but barley is right up there. However, you don't let the barley go to maturity where you can harvest it and make barley grain out of it or use it for flours or whatever it may be. You have to take it when it's very young. You have to take it to be anthropomorphic here. It's got to be prepubescent barley grass.
Yes. But why is that? What happens when it goes into its reproductive phase then?
Well, you know, quite often when you have plants that are in the very young stages, they have all of the components they're ever going to have. They're going to have all the nutrients they're ever going to have. And those are used and exploited and depleted as the plant matures and as it gets older. So you want to get it young. You want to get it when it's still considered to be young, fresh, when it's still considered to be, fertile would be the wrong word to use because it's before they become fertile. But you understand what I'm saying. When you've got to maximize the impact that the components within the plant can have, and so
it feels
that's
like
why
it's
they do.
Brimming at that point with vitality.
Yeah, good word.
One of the things I know he talked about was that it has also the 5 essential nutrients in it. So you've got vitamins, minerals, you have protein, high level of protein, amazing, enzymes, and then the chlorophyll. And he said that those 5 were like the perfect combo. Let's talk about that. You mentioned, we talked a while ago, and you mentioned how important chlorophyll was. Yes.
And chlorophyll is a known efficient detoxifier.
Yes.
So having a good amount of chlorophyll in there makes infinite sense if what you're trying to do is purge the body of contaminants.
Yes.
And so and as far as the enzymes are concerned, I'm going to give you you did your book. I'm going to do this I found on PubMed. But I'll give people the reference. It's Oxidative Medicine and Cellular Longevity is the name of the journal from 2018. It's the April 4th publication on 2018. You can go find it. It's called Preventative and Therapeutic Role of Functional Ingredients of Barley Grass for Chronic Diseases in Human Beings. And again, I'm not going to start talking about the chronic diseases that they discuss, but what I will tell you is that this is a compilation of, there have been hundreds of papers and studies done on barley grass and its impact, and it's out there. And if you want to Google it, you can Google it on your own and you can see what it has to say. But Zhang Pugh et al., the authors of this who put it together, point out that there are over 300 different enzymes in barley grass. There are flavonoids, and then of course we mentioned the chlorophyll, and I thought that was. I recommend, again, it's Oxidative Medicine and Cellular Longevity in 2018, published April 4th, 2018. But if you Google barley grass and effectiveness, you'll find it.
Yes, and we can actually, if you send me the link, we can put that in the description as well, so that we have that. I think it's great. I like to do research myself a lot on all the kind of technologies that we offer. So, and there is another book I have here. There's a woman, Dr. Mary Ruth Swope. She wrote a lot about barley, and this is her Green Leaves of Barley, Nature's Miracle Rejuvenator book. So this is also really fascinating. And it has a fabulous first chapter by her nephew, David Darbra, MD. Really powerful. So for those who do like to study, as you and I obviously do, those are some great references. So
I think that's great, and I still think that I still have a tremendous, and always will have a tremendous admiration for Dr. Hagiwara and what he did.
Yes.
And there's so many of us who if we were looking at the health challenges that he had at age 38, we would have just said, well, that's all she wrote, and you just kind of fade into the sunset.
Not you and me, Dave. No way.
Well, I'd like to
way
think
too feisty for that.
I would certainly I think you're right, but it does bring up the whole idea of guinea pigs. Does bring up one of the things that Nick can listen to over the years. Yes, it's had barley grass. It's had the Jade GreenZymes for a long time, and it got comments along the way from people who were either wouldn't use it because it just couldn't take the taste. It couldn't take the taste.
Okay.
Or they were choking it down because they knew it was good for them. It's sort of like the cod liver oil of Nikan.
Yeah.
Where you're taking it because it's good for you, but you really detest it. And so they said, okay, what can we do to evolve the product? What can we do to enhance the product and change it somewhat, still retaining the overall characteristics, the beneficial characteristics, but making it more palatable?
Yes.
And so here we have the enhanced to nature's most perfect food with lemon.
Yes.
So it's got all the same nutrients. It's got all the natural enzymes. It's got all the detoxing capacity, but it's got a lemon flavor. And you tell me do you like the taste?
Well, I love it actually. I always like the other also. I've been taking it ever since it came out, which I don't recall exactly what year we began with Jade GreenZymes, but anyway, every day. But I have been using this also in shakes with the KVB and the Super Siaga and mixing it in, and it really gives it a light zest to it. And I'm somebody who doesn't really like wheatgrass. I don't particularly like chlorella. Spirulina, definitely I don't like, but I do eat greens at every meal. I mean, most every meal, certainly every dinner. I always have bright greens that I'll cook fresh. But I think having it raw like this and easily assimilable, and it is delicious. And I gave it to all my family, my kids, my grandkids, and everybody liked it. And I do love it that kids and little kids can have this because kids don't usually like greens.
And it's nice to give them something that we know is going to be very good for them.
Yes.
That you don't have to fight about.
Yes.
You don't have to cajole them, and it's nice. And it's nice to get, as you say, to get that green in us. So let's talk about, if you want, talk about what's actually in there. What's actually in the citrus? And I've got the ingredient printout here in front of me, so people don't think they don't think that I have an eidetic memory, which I do not. But obviously, it's got the organic barley grass juice powder. Yes. 2/3 of it, 66.5%, is the barley grass, and then about 12%, 11.6%, is organic inulin.
Yes.
And then there's the lemon juice powder and the lemon flavor, and then a couple of other ingredients, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But we've talked about the barley grass itself. Now let's talk a little bit, or let me pontificate a little bit about the inulin.
Yes.
Inulin is a starch, which is an incredibly good prebiotic. So now there are two components to our gut health, to the good bacteria in our biome that we must have, that we rely upon. And again, I go back to we probably have about 30 trillion somatic cells in our body. Now these are not germ cells, so it's somatic cells. These are our skin cells, our liver cells, our stomach cells, our tongue cells, our brain cells. About 30 trillion.
Wow.
And there are 100 trillion bacteria in our gut that are residing there, waiting to do their thing. And I always joke, I say, okay, 100 trillion bacteria living in 30 trillion other cells, an assembly of 30 trillion other cells. Who's the host?
Absolutely.
And so the question is, what can we do to enhance? We have, and again, the caveat there is that these 100 trillion bacteria that we have, that we rely upon, not all of them are favorable, not all of them are good, not all of them are friendly bacteria. Some of them are noxious, some of them are bacteria we don't want there.
Yes.
And as we get older, the balance between the good and bad bacteria can shift towards the bad bacteria. And so what we want to do is try to find ways to shift it back to encourage the growth of the good bacteria and discourage the growth of the bad bacteria.
Yes.
And inulin, again, is this starch compound. Usually, especially when it's organic inulin, which is what we put into the Jade GreenZymes Citrus, comes from Jerusalem artichokes. Oh. So it's a good, clean source.
Nice.
And what it is, ready for this, Julie?
Yeah.
It's fructooligosaccharide.
Oh, yes.
And here's what's cool about it. It resists digestion in the front end of our digestive system, and it waits until it gets to the large intestine intact. Wow. And then it acts to feed and stimulate the growth of the good bacteria.
Got it.
So that's what makes it a prebiotic. A prebiotic is something that feeds and encourages the growth of the probiotics, which are the bacteria themselves. So that's what the inulin is about.
Because we talk about that with lactoferrin too, right? It was
Absolutely.
a prebiotic, fantastic prebiotic. And I think it's just as important as a probiotic.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So then we get to, all right, so that's 12%. And then the rest of it is, there's organic lemon juice powder, or that's pretty self-explanatory. You squeeze organic lemons and you powder the juice, and that adds flavor. It adds a flavor which is puckering. Mm-hmm. It's a good lemony flavor, mm-hmm. It's also somewhat pointed. It's somewhat sharp.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And so that ends up being mollified a bit by using the organic lemon flavor. Mm-hmm. And organic lemon flavor, that sounds vaguely like some kind of coloration, some colorant additive or some kind of flavor additive. Well, it's organic, it's natural, it comes from the lemon peel. And what they do is they take the lemon peel and they steam it and they extract it, and they get this nice organic lemon flavor, which together with the lemon juice powder, you get a nice, how should I say?
Zesty.
More well-rounded lemony flavor.
Yes, it does get that. That's actually true. It is tart, but not too tart. So.
And then there's the organic maltodextrin.
Mm-hmm.
And people say, "Oh, maltodextrin. What's well, in order to keep the powder free flowing,
mm-hmm.
it's necessary to add something like a maltodextrin to keep that powdery flow, so it doesn't cake and so it doesn't clump."
Yes.
And so we're using organic maltodextrin, and some people are against maltodextrin because they're worried about their glycemic index.
Yes.
And that it is a sugar, and what will the maltodextrin do to my glycemic index? And so Nikken, being aware and being smart, uses organic maltodextrin from tapioca. Because you can get maltodextrin from lots of things. You can get maltodextrin from lots of fruits. You can get it from lots of veggies. You can get it from lots of places. But when you get it from tapioca, you know what tapioca is?
Yes, absolutely.
Tapioca
I used to have tapioca pudding when I was little.
I still love tapioca pudding. I just don't see it anywhere anymore. But at any rate, so they use tapioca, and the reason that they do is that particular maltodextrin is resistant to digestion, so that when your body can, of course, break it down, it just takes longer to break down the maltodextrin from tapioca than it does from other sources. Mm-hmm. And so by stringing along the digestion of the tapioca, you see no increase in the glycemic index. So any of those fears, any of those worries are allayed. And I have another paper here.
Great, love this. Yeah.
This is from a journal called Nutrients, March 22, issue 14, volume 5, and it's just read the title, and the title is Tapioca Maltodextrin as a Carbohydrate Source of Oral Nutrition Supplement on Metabolic Indicators, a Clinical Trial. And what they did was they took different maltodextrins, including tapioca, and they gave them to people, and then they analyzed what they had in their bloodstream. What did their glucose levels look like? And you can see, you look at the paper yourself, you can Google that too. You can Google tapioca maltodextrin metabolism, and you'll bang on these papers. showing, okay, if you take a average off the shelf source of maltodextrin, your glycemic index does this, it goes way up.
Yes.
If you take tapioca maltodextrin, it's flat or even tails off a little bit. So this is fantastic. And that's it to me. I'm talking about it not because I'm a nerd. Well, I am a nerd, but I'm talking about it because it took a lot of planning and thought.
Yes.
For Nikan to say, organic maltodextrins are a dime a dozen. We'll pick the cheapest, easiest one to get. No, they picked one that was meaningful for the impact that it would or would not have on your system and on your body.
Well, that shows the integrity of the company, which I always love.
I agree. And then, of course, there's citric acid, which undoubtedly comes from lemons. And then there's organic stevia, which is organic stevia from the stevia plant, from the stevia leaves, which are dried and chopped up and powdered. And that's for the sweetness.
Yes.
And a lot of people like stevia rather than any other kind of sugar.
Yes.
That you can come up with, any other kind of, I don't want to say sugar, any other kind of sweetener that you can come up with because of the way you metabolize it and because of its source. And
it's natural, right? I mean, we don't want to be using artificial sweeteners ever.
No.
Do the studies on those. It's not.
Well, I can tell you, I'm one of those people that I don't put sugar. I'm trying to think of anything I put sugar in. I put a little bit of brown sugar in my tomato sauce when I'm making my grandmother's. My grandmother taught me how to cook. I'm making my grandmother's from Italy, and she taught me how to cook. And when I make her traditional tomato sauce and meatballs and sausages and other goodies, she always put in just a pinch and a half of brown sugar.
Yes.
I don't know whether I need it or not, but I follow her.
Okay.
It's a tradition, so I follow it.
Absolutely.
That's about the
total dispensation over that one.
That's about the only time I can think of where I go in the cupboard and get out sugar. Just don't.
Yeah, I don't. I don't even have it in the house.
I can't even tell you if we have white sugar in the cupboard. I don't even know.
No.
Because we just never ever use it. So I think when you look at those building blocks for the Jade GreenZymes Citrus, it's not only an answer to a question as to whether or not we can have a Jade GreenZyme that's more palatable.
Yes.
Which they've tried to answer, and maybe expand the distribution base, as you pointed out, with people who won't touch it or kids who just don't want to choke it down. Yes. Now you've got something that they'll embrace.
And we have packets, so we can give it to people, and we can have it in our handbags. We can I have some in the car, for any time when you need that little pick-me-up.
Remember when we first started with the packets way back with the GreenZyme packets? I remember seeing people on stage zipping open the packets and pouring them in their mouths.
Yes.
And there was one in particular that used to do the green tongue.
That's right.
And I remember that one, and poor Larry. Poor Larry went on, and he was going to emulate the same thing, and he ended up putting his head back really far and opening his mouth and pouring the packet all the way to the back of his throat.
Oh gosh.
And he proceeded to cough clouds of green powder for about 5 minutes. I know I'm laughing at it now. I shouldn't have laughed then. I was laughing then too. A bunch of us were. Obviously, someone brought him a glass of water and he recovered.
Yeah.
But I think the packets are fabulous. And I also think that, I've gotten comments, how come we can't have it in a jar? How come we can't do this? Vance Rogers, when I was doing the presentation on Master Day, he was texting and he was saying, when can we have the jars? Because he's sold. He already knows he wants it, and he already knows he's going to use it. And I think that in all fairness to the company, you can't be all things to all people. Yeah. So come out with the new citrus, Jade GreenZymes, put it in packets, give people the opportunity to hand it out, to share it.
Exactly. I mean, our whole work is in promotion. That is what we do, is we promote these different technologies, different nutritional so forth. So I think it's very convenient this way. And you can always cut a bunch of them up and stick them in a jar.
Well, that's what I told Lance. That's what I told Lance on the Master Day. I said, hey, if you want it in a jar, cut the packets, pour them in a jar, and you'll be happy. But I also think the company in all fairness, from a business standpoint, besides the fact that it's a smart business move to have discrete packets that you can travel with, or that you can hand out for other people to try, throw a couple in your pocket, throw a couple in your purse, and somebody says, "Oh, what are you drinking there?" "Oh, it's this," that you talk about it a little bit. And you say, "Here's a packet, try it."
Absolutely. And we have it on the Share app, so people can send it, as a wonderful way to try them easily, share a few packets. It's fantastic. That Share app has so many great applications. I love it.
And the only other thing is, we talk so much about, Julie thinks that I have all this stuff, again, memorized in my head. And in fact, the table here, I'm at the dining room table in my dining room, and you can see my gallery behind me, and that picture there is
your daughter.
Proud Papa walking his daughter down the aisle.
I love it.
And then there's a whole bunch of other pictures of the rest of our family and Sarah's family. And what was I going to say?
You were going to say you have all these notes. I do too.
I have all these notes. When we talked about what Hagiwara went through to preserve the effectiveness and the active elements in his young barley grass, when we talk about, I was looking at the one of the PowerPoints from Saturday, and it says, shake the packet well to mix the formula. Okay. If you empty the packet, there's nothing. And then it says, stir one packet in 6 ounces of cold water, not hot. And it says parenthetically, not hot. Why not hot? Because just as Hagiwara had to invent a cold processing methodology to get us the active nutrients and the active enzymes, you don't want to put it in boiling water, because all that good work goes down. Well, actually, it gets
destroyed. The enzymes get destroyed, don't they? Yeah.
I certainly encourage people to use PIMAG water.
Oh, yes.
And whether it's from the sport bottle or whether it's from the waterfall.
Yes.
Please, people, you have no idea. You have some influences coming in from the media and the government saying tap water might have certain contaminants in it. It's very, very contaminated.
Yes.
And use the filtered water, use the PIMAG water.
100%.
And then drink immediately, because the longer it sits outside of your body, as soon as it gets reconstituted, as soon as it gets wet, things start to move and activity starts to get lost. So you don't want to mix it up, leave it on the counter for 2 hours, come back and drink it.
Okay.
Mix it, drink it, take it right away.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, it instructs you with an exclamation mark to enjoy the refreshing taste.
Yeah.
Which I thought, and it says enjoy 2 to 3 servings a day, 20 minutes before or 2 hours after meals. And I think that makes sense. You want to get it into your system. You want to get it into your body when it's not competing with other nutrients. So you don't take it with your meal. You either take it before, 20 minutes before, and let it get through your system, or you take it a few hours after you eat. Then that's logic.
That's absolutely logical, for sure. And one thing I just wanted to bring up, I know we're coming to the end of our time together, but just on amino acids, I think they're very interesting. And I think what I read was that, and I've read it slightly differently in different places actually, that there's 17 amino acids out of the 22, and then another version said 19 amino acids out of 20, but regardless, it's a lot. And that's really important for the building blocks of our body, right? For every cell.
Well, what do amino acids, what are they used for? They're used for our body to make proteins.
Yes.
And there are a tremendous number of proteins in our system that do different things. There are proteins that are involved in blood clotting. There are proteins that are involved in cell reproduction. There are proteins that are involved in digestion. Enzymes are proteins. So in order for our systems to rebuild and replenish itself, you need the building blocks. You can't make a Lego castle without the Legos.
Yep.
And so the amino acids are the Legos for protein.
Brilliant.
And those get clicked together in a certain pattern. And in fact, what happens is our DNA splits, the double helix splits and becomes a single helix.
Okay.
And that single helix begets a protein. which is a transfer protein. And then that transfer protein makes its way to the ribosomes, and the ribosomes take the building blocks, take the Legos, and say, okay, this is patterned after the DNA, and now we know where we're supposed to put red block goes here, blue block goes here, white block goes here, and then we get the protein that the cell needs.
Oh my gosh, I love this. I was with my grandchildren yesterday, and my, little Knox, he's almost 5, and he's a Lego master already. He's just quite brilliant. I don't know what he's going to do, and he's a big boy, but it's going to be something really exciting. And so I can talk to him about that and explain how this is the, builds the Legos of the body. I love that. I love that.
And it's like, I remember a number of years ago in Southern California, of course, we have Disneyland.
Yes.
And we have Six Flags, and we have Knott's Berry Farm, and we have SeaWorld, and they said, we're going to make a Legoland. A Legoland amusement park.
Wow.
And I thought, what? A Legoland amusement park? Who's going to care? Extremely successful, extremely popular.
Really?
So
yeah. Well, we all remember the Legos with our kids and then stepping on them in the night and going, oh, that's the worst feeling in the world. Oh my goodness.
Sorry about the cough. Yeah, no, in fact, when one of my friends had their first child.
Yeah.
They said, well, what advice can you give me, Dave? And I said, get a pair of slippers that are easy to put on, and make it a habit of putting them on as soon as you get out of the bed. Because when your kids get a little bit older, it's going to be a minefield of things for you to step on that aren't going to feel so good, like the Legos.
True. It's so true. There's one more thing I want to just ask you quickly before we close, and that is just on skin and being youthful, because we do notice that people that use the Nikken products, the Wellness Home, our aging is just slowed up radically. And I know that with skin, very often people will comment to me on my skin, how great my skin is, and I'm very grateful for that. And I do think that the Jade GreenZymes really is an important part of that, rejuvenation and vitality of the skin.
There's no question about it. And even if you only pointed to the detoxification.
Yes.
Because these toxins wreak havoc on our systems. They cause all kinds of pre-aging. And whatever you can do to ameliorate that makes sense.
Yes. Yeah. I love that word, ameliorate. It's a great word.
Sorry.
Yes. Yes. I just know this is an important part. It's something, and because, all of us, the consultants, we do it every day. We take it every day. And sometimes you sort of forget. You just do it because it's good for you. But then, when you see people commenting so often, and I do too, when I look at, other consultants, and I'm like, it's amazing how good you feel. Yes.
Hang on. I got to get some water. I'm coughing away here. Yeah, coughs are like giggles. When you're in church or at a presentation and you tell yourself, okay, stop coughing, don't cough because you're being disruptive.
Yes.
Then you cough more because you're trying not to cough. It's just like giggling.
You're giggling,
you're with your brothers and you're not supposed to giggle. You're not supposed to laugh because something going on stage is very serious. Once you start to giggle,
I know.
There's no way.
It's all over. Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground here. I feel really good. Is there any last words you want to say about?
Yeah, when we were talking about the probiotics,
yes,
I had a thought, and that is, which country has the most bacteria? That would be Germany.
Oh, very funny. You're so silly.
Yeah, that's silly. But I liked it anyway. It's short. It's over.
I like it too. I know you always love to end with a joke. Thank you very, very much for all this information. I hope it's been really helpful for everyone. Thank you all for listening. Do get the Jade GreenZymes Citrus. Try it out by itself. Try it out with mixing it with the shake and so forth. Make sure to drink it quickly after you've opened it up and reconstituted it, as you said, Dave.
And share it, because there are a lot of people out there with health challenges due to any number of the infinite contaminants that we have in our food, in our air, in our water, that need to be flushed out of our systems.
Very much so. Very much so. Thank you, Dave, so much.
My pleasure.
For your
Anytime.
time. It's great.
Good to see you again, my friend.
And hold on just a second. And I'm just going to say thanks to all of you for listening. And also, please do follow the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. We also put it onto our YouTube channel, Naked International. So for translation purposes, please make sure that you do subscribe to the YouTube channel and hit the notification bell so that you're notified anytime we put up a new video. So thanks everyone for listening. I'll see you next week. Bye for now.